Hi, I'm Katie from 512 Cherry Lane. I am doing my first video today, so bear with me because I'm not a big fan of seeing myself on the screen, so it may be a little awkward. And you're going to hear the dogs in the background because for some reason they think someone's in the house, and that's obnoxious. Today I wanted to do a review of the standard Tula carrier and the Beco Soleil. My husband and I were looking for a good soft structure carrier for him, and we've tried out the Ergo and it didn't really work for us, and we had a Beco Butterfly which we really liked, except that our little girl is so tall that she is quickly outgrowing the width of the seat. And I'm kind of a stickler for the whole material being knee to knee at this point anyway. So I've heard a lot of really good things about both carriers, and I haven't been able to find a review online of comparing the two. So I thought I would go ahead and I will do a blog write-up as well so that you have all the stats written down, and you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to. So anyway, neither of these carriers are mine, so full disclosure, this one's actually from our local baby wearing library. We just got it, and I was super excited to be the first person to be able to rent it. This is the standard Tula. And then I'm borrowing the Beco Soleil from a really generous friend of mine. She's super sweet to let me borrow it so I could compare the two and make sure that we're making the right choice, because it's a lot of money to spend on a carrier, and we have a lot of other carriers anyway, so it's got to be the right one for my husband. So first of all, the thing that made me want to kind of review them, and I've heard a lot of kind of chatter since the Soleil came out that Soleil was, ripping off Tula. I think a lot of soft structure carriers are pretty similar, so I don't think that that was their intention by any means. And as I went through and kind of compared the two carriers, what I found is that there's a lot of differences between the two. They're pretty minuscule, so you might not notice them when you first look at the carrier, but for me, when I'm being really picky and I'm kind of comparing which ones I want, of course it's going to stand out for me. So I'm going to go from kind of bottom to top, comparing each carrier, because I just felt like that was what was easiest for me. So we're going to start at the bottom. What I noticed is, first of all, you have pockets in each carrier on the front pocket waist. The pockets are actually almost identical, except that the Beco has, and you can't see it because it's black, but the Beco has a wider Velcro strip, so you kind of can shove more into there because it's going to hit the Velcro at different places. And then also the Beco has a little, I don't know, something to use to clip on, I don't know, a little pouch or purse or maybe toy. Obviously, kid can't play with it when it's down at your waist. The other difference is that the Soleil is actually pretty thick padding. It's almost like a yoga mat padding. It's just really, really structured, not very foamy. There's not a whole lot of give, which I actually really like. And it's all one piece, so you can see there's no separate sections. The Tula is actually softer foaming. It's still pretty structured, and it has 3 sections to it, so it's going to contour to your body a little bit differently. Also, on talking about the waist, I did notice that the Tula actually buckles off to the side. They both have safety features in terms of buckling, but so the Tula buckles off to the side, which is actually a nice feature for plus-size mamas like me. Keep in mind this review is based on a plus-size mama, so that's what I'm going to be looking at, the things that affect how I look in the carrier or how the carrier feels on me. So buckle off to the side on the Tula, and then the buckle is actually in the middle on the Soleil. And the Soleil, all their buckles have this little safety feature here, so when you unbuckle, you have to push the little tab in order to do it. You can't just unbuckle like you do the Tula. Some people might like that extra feature. I have a really hard time getting it undone, so it's kind of annoying to me. In terms of how big the waists are, in terms of adjustment, let's get it here so I can compare it. The Soleil actually adjusts a little bit longer. Honestly, it's pretty big both ways. For the Ergo, I needed an extender, just needed an extender for the Ergo. For the Tula, I'm not nearly close. And my husband's a pretty big, tall guy, and so it's nice that we can both wear the same carrier and be comfortable either way with these. So next is the legs out padding. So they both actually have legs out padding, which is a really nice feature. It just makes me feel like my baby's a little bit more comfortable. The Soleil, the padding seems really plush, but when I push on it, it seems to give way a little bit easier than the Tula. This feels more like foam, and this feels more like maybe a little bit of extra material, padding, maybe some quilter's batting type foam. So I kind of prefer the Tula foam over the Soleil foam. Then they both have seat darts, so I won't bother comparing that. They both come with hoods, although because my friend won this, hers didn't come with a hood, so this is actually a hood I just made for her as a thank you for letting me borrow her carrier, because that really is so generous. The Beco Soleil has padding on the top as a headrest. Again, the padding seems pretty not very dense, so it squishes pretty easily. It's not super substantial. The Tula is just canvas on top, no padding. Then we get to the shoulder straps. And sorry, I made these, so I will take them off so you can actually see. The shoulder straps, both of them have adjusters so that you can use it for shorter, taller people, which are nice. You can see here, though, that the Soleil, the adjuster actually goes about twice the length as the Tula. So you get a little bit more of adjustment capabilities in here than you do with the Tula. The actual strap padding, the Soleil is pretty wide. Probably one of the wider strap paddings that I've seen in terms of carriers. The Tula is really dense and thick. So they're both going to have their pros and cons to that. I actually prefer the Tula padding. I didn't like how wide the Soleil was because when I clipped the chest clip, the shoulder straps would kind of lift up, and I don't know, I'm super nitpicky, so that bugged me. The next thing is the hood, how the hood actually attaches. For the Tula, it has a little elastic bungee, and the elastic bungee actually just clips into the clip there. Which is a feature I've never seen on a carrier before, so that's kind of fun. And then the Soleil snaps, just like the Ergo does, or any of the other Soleil carriers. And it's got two snaps on the shoulder strap. So the next thing we'll talk about is the chest clip. So the chest clip is pretty similar. I mean, they're all chest clips. The chest clip on the Soleil, that is the only buckle that does not have the safety catch feature, but it's also the only buckle that doesn't hold, excuse me, the child into the carrier safely, so that makes sense. I did notice that on the Soleil, they both can go up and down on the shoulder strap. On the Soleil, there's about half of the distance as the Tula that it can adjust up and down. So you're going to have less adjustability in terms of where the chest clip can fall on the Soleil than on the Tula. And I also noticed, again, I'm being really nitpicky because they're both great carriers, but on the Soleil, the chest clip holder, and I don't think you can see that just because of lighting, but the chest clip holder just seems a little bit cheaper to me, and the webbing is a little bit thinner. I just like the sturdiness of the Tula chest clip where it attaches here, and then the webbing actually goes around the entire strap padding. So I like that feature as well. In terms of length and adjustability, the Soleil chest clip, interestingly enough, because everything else seems to adjust longer on the Soleil, is shorter than the Tula. So you can see here, the Tula is the gray. So the Tula is quite a bit longer than the Soleil in terms of the chest clip. The next feature going on to the bottom of the straps is how they adjust. So the Tula actually does not unclip in terms of the shoulder straps, which means you cannot do a cross on your back when you are carrying your baby on the front, which is a really nice feature to be able to add support, especially when you're carrying a larger baby on your front, and especially for those moms who are breastfeeding kids past 1. It's kind of a necessity to carry your baby on your front to do that. So that is a really nice feature if you're looking to be able to do that. I am not, however, so it's just kind of an extra thing that I could give or take. However, they do adjust in separate directions. So the Soleil, and I'll put it on just briefly so that you can see what I'm talking about, because it's kind of hard to just explain it. I'm just going to put the Soleil on like it's a backpack since there's no child in it. The Soleil, when I adjust it, I have to actually pull forward, which you just kind of have to get used to that feature because depending on the carrier, and you'll see the Tula, it adjusts differently. They either pull forward or pull back. So this one you have to pull forward. The Tula, you actually have to pull back to adjust. So I'm going to do the same thing and put that on so I can kind of demonstrate how that works. So the Tula, and it's going to be harder to adjust since I don't have a baby, but you pull back to adjust it. When there's the weight of the baby in there, it's really easy. I prefer the pulling back versus the pulling forward for whatever reason. Both of them you can actually do a high back carry, which is my new favorite carry in a soft structure carrier, because baby can see over my shoulder and she's not just like hanging out on my back looking from side to side. She really likes to see what is going on. And my husband has decided he actually really likes that carry too, which is nice. In terms of how tight the straps cinch for both carriers, it's pretty similar fit. I'm going to cinch both of them all the way, even with the adjusters. Okay. So you can see the Tula actually cinches a little bit smaller, but not really enough to make much of a difference. So the biggest surprise that I had, quite honestly, because I think our biggest thing right now is that we're at a weird place in terms of buying a new carrier because my legs are going numb. Because our little one is almost a year old, and so she's kind of at the cusp where we maybe could go with a toddler carrier and get a lot more use out of it, or we could stick with a standard size carrier and just know that in a year or so we're probably going to need or want to upsize just because of the height of the back, and especially because she's a leaner. So we like that added security of a tall back, which is also another reason why the Ergo didn't work out for us. What I did find out, and I'm just pulling these measurements out of my head, but I'm pretty sure the Tula said that they were 14 and a half wide on the bottom and 16 and a half tall on the top. When I measured it, it actually measured exactly 14 and a half wide, 16 and a half tall, which I was really excited about because as someone who sews, as a side business, I know that it can be really hard to get those exact measurements. My 1/4 inch seam just never seems to be a 1/4 of an inch, so I don't fault anyone for being off a little bit. However, the Beco Soleil said that their Width on the bottom was, I think, 16 or 16 and a half, one of those numbers, and I will get you the correct number in the blog. But when I measured it with my soft tape, and I want to make sure to go above the seat darts, it actually measures 15 inches across the bottom. So that's a whole inch off, which I was a little disappointed with. And actually at the very bottom, it measures 14 and a half. The height actually measured about, I think, maybe a quarter of an inch more, because I'm pretty sure they said it was 17 and a half or 17, and so it measured just a little bit taller. So the height on the Soleil is pretty good, and I was kind of leaning towards the Soleil before I tried it, just because it has the wider seat and the taller back, and it's a little bit cheaper, which I appreciate, because we are on the Dave Ramsey plan, which means we are pretty careful about how we spend our money. However, what we actually decided, and since this is my husband's carrier, he got a lot of say in this, and we tried both of these carriers out for almost the Tula for a month and the Soleil for almost 2 weeks, and we wore them pretty much every day to try them out and make sure we were making the right choice. I actually prefer the Tula, which I thought I was going to prefer the Soleil because it is a little bit cheaper and the features aren't that different. But when I started kind of nitpicking and really figuring out what was comfortable for me, I definitely leaned towards the Tula. Interestingly enough, my husband also leaned towards the Tula. He just feels like it's more secure, and he's able to adjust it, and just because he's so tall, there are just certain features, especially the chest clip, because when he puts her on his back, the chest clip always seems to cut him in the throat, and so it's good for him to have that longer adjustability to adjust the chest clip up and down so it's not cutting him in the throat when he puts it on. So we actually decided we really like the Tula, which is awesome that we're in an agreement. That doesn't necessarily happen too often, and we get to have these fun debates about why, so we can see who wins. So we did decide we really like the Tula. Today I'm actually going to a baby wearing meeting, our local baby wearing meeting, and someone is kind enough to bring their kinder pack, because I'm kind of dying to try a standard size kinder pack before we make the jump to the Tula, just so I know we're making the right decision. We probably put way more thought into buying this carrier than we have any other carrier, and I have quite a few of them. So I'm kind of proud of us for doing that. If you have any questions, the carriers won't be in my possession past today, but I'll do my best to answer them. I have taken notes, and I will write a blog post and put a link in the bottom under this video so that you can see the measurements for everything. And I hope this was helpful. I just really wanted to do it so that there was actually a review out there, or a comparison between the Beco Soleil and the Tula, since they're so similar, and I'm sure I'm not the only one asking the question, so that I can make the right decision about which one I wanted to go with. So thank you for bearing with me. I apologize if there was anything about this video that irritated you, but give me feedback, let me know, and I'm hoping to kind of continue to do videos, updates, etc. And if you are interested in looking at my product, feel free to go to facebook.com/512 Cherry Lane. There's also a link on there to my Etsy store, and you can see what fun things I make. Thank you. Bye. Hi, I'm Katie from 512 Cherry Lane. I am doing my first video today, so bear with me because I'm not a big fan of seeing myself on the screen, so it may be a little awkward. And you're going to hear the dogs in the background because for some reason they think someone's in the house, and that's obnoxious. Today I wanted to do a review of the standard Tula carrier and the Beco Soleil. My husband and I were looking for a good soft structure carrier for him. And we've tried out the Ergo, and it didn't really work for us, and we had a Beco Butterfly, which we really liked, except that our little girl is so tall that she is quickly outgrowing the width of the seat. And I'm kind of a stickler for the whole material being knee to knee at this point anyway. So I've heard a lot of really good things about both carriers, and I haven't been able to find a review online of comparing the two. So I thought I would go ahead and I will do a blog write-up as well, so that you have all the stats written down, and you don't have to watch the whole video if you don't want to. So anyway, neither of these carriers are mine, so full disclosure, this one's actually from our local baby wearing library. We just got it, and I was super excited to be the first person to be able to rent it. This is the standard Tula. And then I'm borrowing the Beco Soleil from a really generous friend of mine. She's super sweet to let me borrow it so I could compare the two and make sure that we're making the right choice, because it's a lot of money to spend on a carrier, and we have a lot of other carriers anyway, so it's got to be the right one for my husband. So